My name is Granger Korff. I'm here today to speak about the conflict that we had in South Africa at the time on the border there. In the 70s and the 80s, there was this South African bush war on the Angolan border. The low-intensity war there that in a region, in a small remote region in Africa that most people had never heard of. Even South Africans hadn't really heard about this little region of southern Angola and of Vambaland. Small region where this bush war had been carrying on, started up in 75 and built to climax all the way through to 89. In the 70s and the 80s, young South Africans straight out of high school would be conscripted to do your national service. So you got to come out of high school, you got to do your national service, go into the army or the navy. You could also go to the police. What motivated me to go into the airborne, I remember as a high school, I was a high school kid. I had hair down to here, and I was walking down the road once, and I saw the soldier walking towards me. And it was a paratrooper, skinny guy with red hair, with his maroon beret on and his shiny wings on his chest, and he's an airborne paratrooper, and he had a no-nonsense look in his eyes. They had jumped into a terrorist base in Angola, and he had landed in a tin roof, taken somebody out with a knife, and I thought, that's where I'm heading. So when my time came up, I volunteered for the airborne. When you went through those gates at one parachute battalion, you had the distinct feeling straight away that you were in a very special place. Very special place. You had a screaming eagle, a fish eagle in a big cage at the gate as you walked in that would yelp every time that you came in, which was the emblem of the South African paratroopers. You had the instructors running around with their maroon berets and their big moustaches like this, and everybody's on the run. A lot of guys volunteer. They volunteer, but there's a selection course. There's a 2-week, very tough, well-known selection course that the guys go through, and not everybody makes it. If you survive through the PD course and you don't get RTU'd, return to unit, then you'll go on to do your jump phase, jump school, which is a 2-week course, and then you get your wings. And then you think you're a tough paratrooper after you've got your wings. But that's when the trouble just starts. They tell you, this is when it only begins. I sure did think I wouldn't make it. In fact, my boots were too small for me when I went through the PD course. And I ripped up my feet really badly. But I didn't complain, because I know that one complaint and it's over. They send you back, RTU. Most of the guys that volunteered for the paratroopers there, they are a hard bunch, tough bunch of guys. So you take it from the guys around you. The moment you feel like giving in, you'll see one of your mates there, pushing on, and you say, well, if he can do it, I can do it. You're mixing with guys from different towns, different languages, different places, farm guys, city guys, all thrown together. But you come out as a brotherhood, you come out as a family. Most of the other infantry units were up in the operational area, which is Angola. It's on the border between Angola and Namibia. They were there probably after about 7 months. They found themselves on the border. The paratroopers was a year. We had a whole year of training. So we found ourselves up there a year later. It wasn't long after that we were flying a cross-border operation into Angola to hit a base. A base camp, terrorist base camp, Swapo terrorist base camp in southern Angola. And there we are flying in helicopters, about 8 Pumas. Pumas is a French helicopter. And flying across the border and then going around in circles like this, 8 helicopters flying, follow the leader. And then we're just watching the jets drop the bombs on the base. And then we broke off and went into the base after they had finished bombing it, landed in the Shona, and everybody, and that is it. We hit the base there, attacked it, ended up being a lemon. They just scooted. But it is our first taste of going into Angola, bombs dropping, advancing on with fire and movement onto a terrorist base down there. And so we found ourselves in the action pretty quickly there. Once we got up there. But it was Operation Sealing, which was working in conjunction with Operation Carnation, which was a big push into southern Angola. So Delta Company, that is our company, we did a 4-week patrol into Angola. Platoons, 5 kilometers stretched out from each other, and we did a zigzag seek and destroy into southern Angola. So it's a very odd feeling when you cross the border into somebody else's country. Very strange feeling. Now suddenly you're in another country and you're patrolling, looking for trouble. And we sure ran into trouble pretty quickly. Just after, I think on the 3rd day in there, we did an ambush. We ambushed it as a SWAPO HQ. We were led. It was a deserter. It was one of their comrades that took us there, and we were led by him at night. 16 of us. So we followed him at night, and he ended up about 4 o'clock in the morning, pointing right, saying, "There they are. They're right there." And we formed up. 16 of us went through, and and we were right on top of them. He was right. They were there. But they had just moved. Their bedding was there, their clothing was there, their food was there, and we walked right into them, right on top of them. And it's amazing how this fellow had led us at night to the exact point in the bush where these guys were. But he did. We thought we had missed them. We thought it was a lemon. And we were quite disappointed because we had been walking the whole night. And all their stuff was there. There was even a little fire right here. As I walked in, a little fire that was whipping up little flames. And we went through. Nobody said a word. Nobody said a word. We went through, went down, and kept quiet. 20 minutes later, we were laughing and talking right next to us here. 40 meters away. So they had got up and moved. Maybe they did a security patrol early in the morning. I'm not sure why they moved. I've never known why they moved. But they were right next to us. We were sitting here. They were here. So they made the noise. We surrounded it. 16 of us crept right up to them, and there they were. And that is it. We got them all. But if we had said one word, if one of our guys had said a word or left, they would have done the same to us. SWAPO is Southwest African People's Organization, and they were a guerrillas unit fighting for the independence of Southwest Africa.
What's their history?
Southwest Africa used to be German territory, and it was taken from the Germans in the First World War and given to South Africa as a mandate for 99 years to keep. And these guys were fighting for independence. They wanted the land back, which in hindsight is not wrong. It's their land originally. But the only problem, it was the height of the Cold War, and they were being trained by the Soviets, and they were being trained supplied by China. So they were being trained by the communists. So that was the problem. SWAPO, they were very brave. They were very brave. They would come across the border doing insurgency, landmines, taking recruits, taking back with them. They weren't armed like we were. They didn't have support. They didn't have the radio and the backup that we had, the medical. They were brave. They sure were, because they knew the South Africans were waiting for them. You know, we had gunships, we had fighter jets, we had support, everything we needed. So these guys had nothing they came across. So in looking back, yes, I take my hat off to these guys. They were a brave enemy, that's for sure. We went through a little town, and pretty soon when we came around the side there, we started taking fire, and that is on. So there we had a running firefight with these guys, and they were in the tree line. We were coming across a Shauna, which is a flat. It's a flat clearing. It's a flat clearing. And we were coming short, and they opened fire on us. So we all dived and ducked, and but we gathered ourselves and we did fire and movement forward, shooting buddy, and then they broke, and then the gunships came. We had 2 gunships that came right over us, and had them hemmed up, and that's when we were able to move forward, and we sorted them out, and it was FAPLA. It wasn't all SWAPO. It is FAPLA, yeah, which was the Angolan army. When the gunships come in and they got their 20 millimeter those 20 millimeter cannon shooting down, cavalry's arrived. So that spurs you on, of course. Then you charge forward, and then these guys were retreating, but they had nowhere to go, and we got quite a few of them. We had to boogie out of there really quickly because we were low in ammunition because we had just had that ambush. It was 2 days earlier, and shot out a lot of ammunition, and then on this contact we shot out a lot of ammunition too. So we were really down on ammo, and this was FAPA. This was the Angolan army, and apparently there was a base not far away. This is what the helicopter pilots told us. So we boogied south straight away. We got into single file, and thank goodness the sun was going down. When it was about 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock when this action happened. And so we in our dark, but they were throwing mortars at us, and we had to head south. We headed south as fast as we could to regroup and get resupplied. But and then they chased us with a BTR. A BTR is a Russian armored vehicle. So there's nothing more bone-chilling than when you're in the deep bush, it's so quiet. When you hear the roar of a diesel engine in the night coming behind you, and you haven't got much ammunition, you've got one magazine left, that's not a good feeling. You get ready for a fight. And then, which we did, we were dug in, we had a TB, which is a temporary base, and we were going to go for it. And then the lieutenant got comms communications, and they told us get out of there. So we went single file and we booked out of there, So ended up all fine. It ended up fine, but it could not have been, It could have been different. But that is Operation Sealing, and the other platoons that were abreast of us, 5 kilometers abreast of us, they were hitting contacts too. So it was a very successful operation. From that operation, I didn't have much time to think. I got to tell you, we had to walk all the way back to South Africa, across the border. We had to walk. I don't even know how far it was, but we walked for 2 days, possibly more, to get back to the base. As we walk into the base, this was a base that we had where we had been at before we went out. And in our absence, while we were in Angola, the infantry had taken over. So as we walk in there, we've been in the bush for 4 weeks, and one of the guys comes and says, it was the acting sergeant major. He was a staff sergeant, but he was the acting sergeant major of the base. Had killed your cats. So we had 2 cats there that we used to feed, little kittens, and he had killed them. Probably within a half an hour, I'd found out where this guy is, and I got stuck into him, and it wasn't good for him. It wasn't good for him at all. I dragged him out of the tent there, and it wasn't good for me either at the end, but I ended up being court-martialed for kicking the crap out of this guy. And when I mean kicking the crap out of the guy, I mean kicking it. So I was locked up and charged. The rest of Delta Company took off. There was no break in between. We just got back, and they took off to go train for the next big operation. Finally, the court-martial came about 3 weeks later. But all this time, Delta Company's up training for this big operation, and everybody's got rumors with this big operation, and I'm thinking, boy, I'm going to miss this. I didn't get DB, but I had a suspended sentence, which was quite a long suspended sentence, and that's in the morning. So within 1 hour of being told not to set a foot wrong, I go AWOL. But I go AWOL towards the battle. I go to find my guys. I didn't know where they were, but all I knew is I'm hitchhiking somewhere out there to find where they are. They got long hair. They've been sleeping in the dust and everything. They've been training for this operation. They've been training attacking bunkers, attacking trenches for the 3 weeks that I haven't been there. And I get there just in time. So that's about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And they say, we're leaving tomorrow morning, 4 o'clock. We're going across the border on the big attack. So I just made it. But I had no training. I had no training. So I got trained. Sergeant Major Saki Marais says, train this guy. Hey, you, train this guy about diving into bunkers, getting into trenches. Show him. So I got trained by my mates there in an hour, what they were trained in for 3 weeks, you know. And the next day we went in. It was a big operation. Operation Protea started with a hell of a bang. At 6 a.m. with the Mirage jets, our jets coming from miles high, coming down, straight down like this vertical, dropping 1,000-pounder bombs onto the base. And these guys are firing back at them with the Zu-23s. The Zu-23 is a Soviet anti-aircraft gun. It shoots 2,000 rounds a minute, each barrel. And it's got 2 barrels. And the rounds are this big. So it was quite a show watching. It felt like looking at some Vietnam footage or something like that, you know. Watching these jets, our jets, South African jets, falling out of the sky like arrows from miles high, with these guys shooting AK on them. We were in the vehicles, ready to go in, and watching this with our heads down. And they bombed half an hour, and a 1,000-pound bomb is a hell of a bomb. So the noise is amazing. We had never heard anything like it before. And then they left, so now it's our turn to go in. So we drive in, and we getting fire, and we got our heads down. And finally we get in front of the first trench. We had been told that there's a tar road. And when we got close to that, the trenches are beyond that. And then we employed, but we under fire, we couldn't move. Soon they had those anti-aircrafts that were shooting at those those planes. They turned it down onto us. So they got those anti-aircraft shooting at us. You got your cheek into the dirt. You're making yourself as flat as you can. Bullets cracking right over you. You thinking that this is it. Any minute now, you're going to get a bullet through the head, and your brains are going to be in the sand next to you. You know, any minute. You know, they're cracking right over you, hitting the dirt. And this gunner, this anti-aircraft gunner, kept us pinned down. He would just when you thought he had quit, and you'd move forward, he'd shoot again. And we had big limbs, tree limbs, crashing behind us from these rounds. It was amazing. Then finally he did quit, and he ran out of ammunition or something. But he did quit. Then we were able to go forward. But a tank came out at us. You know, all the guys running back, and then we had one of our South African armored cars. A little noddy car came from behind. One of our armored cars, right through us. Because we were all running, and we dived down. He came round the side, right through us, stopped, bam, took out the tank. Then it eased up a bit. But for the first 3 hours there, it was a pretty rough little thing going on. It was a real deal, you know. I've been living in America here for quite a long time now. And I've come to terms with myself. I am who I am. And with things that we did, it was an adventure that I would do over again. And I've come to terms. The ghosts have been, for most part, laid to rest. I look to try and help others. There's many youngsters out there that their battle's only beginning. You know, from all these wars around the world. And their battle's only starting, these guys, on different levels in various ways. But, you know, this stuff stays with you throughout. But, no, life is good. Life is good. Courage can be done on many levels. You can have daily courage of doing the things that you have to do, and they have to be done. So courage is at many levels, and in the war zone, of course, there's bigger losses. You can lose your life. You won't lose your life during your work day. But I feel courage is just following through with something that you have to do. I personally do draw on a determination that was built through my time at Parachute Battalion, a determination to go forward on something that seems bigger than you. And you've done it before, and I build on it is that you've got through it before, and do it again. You can do it again. Here it is right here. This 19 with a bullet. The story of it says a South African paratrooper in Angola. But this book can be the story of many paratroopers in Angola. Many different guys relate to this book, the story of a paratrooper in Angola. 19 Bullet. I was a musician. I still am a musician. Play the piano, sing, play the guitar. And it was a song we used to sing. I used to sing, and it's actually 18 with a bullet. And it's I used to sing it all the time when we were up there. My friend John used to sing it, and I used to sing it. So it's a title. It's a song title, 19 with a bullet. And of course we were 19 at the time, and we had a bullet. So it's out there, 18 with a bullet.